Hey guys, I just thought I would share some thoughts on my trip here to Germany and my first day in Berlin. So, long flight, long series of flights, I should say. It's bad enough going from Toronto to Europe, but I've moved now, so there's not a direct flight. You have to take a whole bunch of transfers. It was a long day. I left home at about 7 a.m. Central Time and arrived in Germany at about 9 a.m. local time, so after you do all the conversions, probably about 20 hours. So, long flight, but nothing really crazy happened. I generally find whenever I go to Europe, I generally leave in the morning and I arrive in the morning. And then I just kind of have to make the best out of the first day here after 24 hours with basically no sleep because I can't really sleep on the plane. But you know what I find? You're in a strange land, everything's kind of new and cool, and the combination of coffee, energy drinks, and adrenaline can keep you going for quite some time. Anyway, so I arrived here, took the train in, and I've just kind of been going around the city a bit. I had a tour, so I've seen kind of some of the main sites. I have to say, it's interesting. This might be weird to say, but it reminds me of Toronto a little bit. There's a park in the middle of the city that looks exactly like a park in anywhere in Canada. It reminds me of the parks in southern Ontario, where I live now, that kind of thing. I'm actually kind of surprised how similar like the flora is here. I know I probably shouldn't be. Germany's basically, I think, the same climate as Canada, just a lot milder. But yeah, I found that interesting, just walking through the forest here. It could very easily have just been anywhere in Canada. And just a lot of the architecture here, because I've mostly been in East Germany so far, and Canada has a lot of like the commie block, brutalist, concrete, poorly made designed building feel. So you do have a lot of that here. It's a really weird kind of mixture of styles, which once again kind of reminds me of Toronto. We can even see it here. We have like this ultra-modern, futuristic stuff. You have the commie blocks that have been upgraded to look somewhat aesthetically presentable. You have like the old commie blocks. And then there's some more old school architecture in other parts of the city. So once again, that is something you find a lot in Toronto, which I find kind of interesting here. So yeah, I've seen a couple of the major sites. I saw the Brandenburg Gate, which was pretty spectacular. The Berlin Cathedral, I haven't been inside yet, but it was spectacular. The statue of Frederick the Great. Just been kind of looking around all the stuff that's in the downtown area. So it's been enjoyable so far. As an English speaker, I find I'm basically having no trouble here. Most people speak English, most signs are bilingual. I get that I'm in kind of like one of the largest cities in Europe, in a touristy area, so that probably makes sense. But this city is very cosmopolitan. A lot more so than I was thinking it would be. I don't know why I was thinking anything else. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of Toronto, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It kind of reminds me a bit of Toronto, but with a functional public transit system and a lot of cool museums and things to do. But the vibe of just kind of like this multicultural, kind of globalist mass, I do get here. But it's much farther, less far down the line than Toronto is. Toronto's way further down the line, and this kind of reminds me of where it was like 20 or 30 years ago or something like that, back when I was just growing up. But I do get that vibe, and then once again, it's hard to kind of completely erase all that history overnight, especially when so much of it is economically important because of tourism and stuff like that. So it is kind of an interesting mix. I find just being here one day, they try really hard to do like what we do in Canada, where we take like an older style building and they stick like a postmodernist tumor on the side of it, or they try to add a modernist flair to stuff. I find they do that a lot here, or they just try to incorporate something like that. I haven't seen too much anti-racist stuff here. I've seen a lot of rainbow flags here. Nowhere near the number you see in Canada, but probably more than I've seen in just about any city outside of Canada I've been to. Maybe when I was in Philadelphia there was more, but there's a lot of rainbow stuff here. The other thing that, of course, I noticed that is extremely prevalent here is reminders of a certain historical event. And it is very, very pervasive. Like, the tour I went on, we went to the Holocaust Memorial, which I actually was going to not go to on purpose, but it was on my tour. It was kind of worth going. It was actually kind of a cool area. Because you like go in and it's kind of does weird things with your senses just because of how uneven the ground is and how thick the pillars are and stuff like that. You could just look it up if you're wondering, but it is kind of a cool building. An interesting detail is there is a room where they read out, I'm not sure if it's a computerized voice or not, the names of all 6 million who perished during this certain historical event. And they're read out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it takes 6 years or 7 years to read them all out. And then there's like in the same area, there's 6 stories from concentration and extermination camps. 1 story for each of the 6 million. But just pretty much like everything has to somehow relate back to it. Relate back to the Holocaust, relate back to the Nazi era. There's so many like, oh, this is where Goebbels did the book burning. This is where this happened. This is where Hitler made a speech. And it's just, I don't know. There is this kind of pervasive sense of guilt that just pervades Germany. I find it less than the last time I was here. Just because, once again, it feels a lot more cosmopolitan and a lot less rooted in the past. The Holocaust thing seems to more just become a generic self-hating thing than it's more of the kind we have in Canada than like a specifically German form of self-hatred. So I do also wonder how that's all going to change with the whole Israel-Hamas war. Because I do feel like that particular part of World War II is going to become increasingly problematic and kind of a tough circle to square, as it were. Just in going to the whole cosmopolitan thing, I don't think I've been to a city in Europe before that has so many foreign restaurants. Like there's a Five Guys over there. Obviously there's McDonald's and Starbucks. There's like Dunkin' Donuts. I forget what else I've seen. Like I said, I'm over 24 hours with no sleep, so my mind's not the sharpest. But I've just seen so many international brands, and it is depressing because there's like a Starbucks and a Dunkin' Donuts, and then there's a German bakery next to it. And I go into the German bakery, and I had a Berliner donut. It was maybe the best donut I've ever had, to be honest. It was fresh. It was delicious. The icing was beautiful. I had a pretzel, which, to be fair, I bought it near the end of the day, so it was getting a little stale, but it was still good. I got some bread. Food here is really good. I had a sausage, just fresh, full of flavor. I don't get why they need fast food. It's kind of how I felt in Italy, because in Italy, they're like, oh, well, Italian food's too slow. And I'm like, no, it isn't. You can just go and you get a slice of pizza. Like, when I was in Italy, at least, and that was like 10 years ago. But much like in North America, there were just places that had pizza. You went in and you could get a couple slices and then just go. Same thing with pasta, same thing with antipasto, like antipasta, all that stuff. It wasn't really that hard. And once again, I mean, German food's fine for like fast food. Like sausages on buns are good, schnitzel's good, the baked goods are good. The baked goods are so much better in Europe. I don't know what it is, if it's food restrictions or the fact they're just fresher, but just the bread is so much better here. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it. It was really cool to see the Brandenburg Gate, to see the Reichstag, to see, I'm gonna go see Museum Island probably Tuesday, Wednesday, because everything in Europe's closed on Monday for some reason. But yeah, so I'm enjoying it. We'll see once I actually get to go inside some things, how that experience is. Anyways, God bless, guys, and I'll talk to you later.